Hello everyone, I'm Instructor Jerry Roberts and this is PowerShell Scripting. In this video we're going to talk about what a command is and how commands are structured in PowerShell. First of all, what is a command? Simply put, command is just a bunch of words or a single word that's been put together to do something, such as get event log, which would help you retrieve an event log in Windows. In PowerShell, they're also called CMDlets or commandlets. There are predefined CMDlets in PowerShell and some that you can add. Packages of commands are often called modules, so there are modules for some things that you can add. These could be for a program or a specific task. For example, there are modules specifically made for Azure, and there are actual modules made specifically for scripting tasks. So in PowerShell, there's usually a structure to the command or the CMDlet. Here we have an example of a command that's trying to get an event log and specifically looking for the one called security on the computer Jerry PC2. And at the end, we're telling it that we want a lot of information. Verbose means that you're going to add a lot of extra information. Now, if we break down this command, we can see that at the beginning, the first item is a verb, the second item is a noun. Typically in PowerShell, commands are structured with a verb noun. This was a get-event log, and a lot of times you'll have commands that are get-something. You'll also have commands that are set-something or add-something a lot. Now, the difference here is when you do a get-something, you're usually just pulling information. When you're doing a set-something, you're usually actually setting a value, such as a username or a password for an account. And if you're doing an add-something, you're usually adding a new something, like a new user or a new group. The next thing you'll notice after our verb-noun structure is a parameter. A parameter is an item where we can put information in. Here, we have a parameter for log name, so we're telling it that we're looking for a specific log and then putting in a parameter value so it knows which log to find. In this case, it's security. Now, we also have another parameter here, computer name. So now we're telling it we're looking for the log name security, and then we're going to look for it on this specific computer. And we pass the value Jerry-PC2. Now, notice here that these parameters only have a single value. Some parameters can have multiple values, and those values typically are separated by commas or quotation marks depending on the structure of that particular parameter. Now, at the end, you notice that you do have a switch parameter. Now, there are different types of parameters. Here we see parameters that take values, and a switch parameter is a parameter that does not take value, but does do something. Now, nouns and parameters are normally in singular form. That just means commands and parameters will not usually have an S in the end. So here's an example. We have get-AD user. When we put that command in and we put in the dashes for the parameters and we put in those pieces of information, we'll be able to get information about an Active Directory user. However, if we added an S at the end and we did get-AD users, we're going to get a big old nice block of red text that's an error and it's not going to be happy. So make sure when you're typing out this command that you look and see, is this one that has an S? Because those are very rare. Sometimes those are things like get process or get services or things like that from the computer where the name of the item already had an S. Most modules also have information on where they come from. In the example above, when you look at that CMDlet, you see the AD for Active Directory. So another thing you'll notice when you're putting in commands, if it's from a specific module, you're probably going to have some sort of information in it to tell you where it's coming from, such as our Active Directory example. Now, spacing and case sensitive and other considerations. Watch your spacing. Seriously. Improperly spaced commands just are not going to run. You're going to get a whole lot of red text and you're not going to be happy. PowerShell uses these spaces to know when to look for the next item in the list. It will continue until it is lost if there is not proper spacing. So what will happen is the command will run, and then if it hits where it's not proper spacing, it's going to go, oh, oops, I don't know what that is. Here's a bunch of errors telling you that I don't know what that is. Another thing with PowerShell, case sensitive. Some modules in PowerShell are case sensitive, some are not. Quite a few of them, if you were to write that get AD user we saw earlier all in lowercase, would still work. But the important part to remember is things that are values like file paths, file names, folder paths, all that should be properly capitalized to avoid confusion, because it's not going to find what you need or do what you need if it doesn't know the proper value. If you're just not sure if a module requires proper capitalization, just do it anyways. It's not going to hurt to do capitalization when you don't need to necessarily. The other thing, use proper symbols. For example, don't accidentally put an underscore in a command that requires a dash. And put your slashes in the correct direction. File paths or anything like that requires a slash, if the slash is in the wrong direction, it's not going to find it, it's not going to do it, you're going to have a bad day. So make sure you put your slashes in the correct direction. All right, so post-assessment question time. What is a parameter called that has no values being passed through it? If you remember back a couple slides, we talked about that. Is that a zero parameter? Is that a switch parameter? Is that a blank parameter or a parameter null? You can pause for a moment to figure out your answer. All right, so our answer here is B, a switch parameter. A switch parameter has no value being passed through it, will only have one effect. For example, in our example earlier, verbose. Verbose is put there to add additional information about the output of the item.